In Lesson 5.2, you'll be converting between fractions, decimals, and percents. Fractions, percents, and decimals are all different ways to represent the same ratio. For example, this is 3 different ways to write the same thing. 45 out of 100, 45 hundredths, and 45%. Remember that percent means per hundred. So to change a percent to a decimal, that percent means out of 100, so you're dividing by 100, which means you take the decimal point and move it 2 places to the left. And if you want to go the other way, from a decimal to a percent, you want to do the opposite. You want to, instead of dividing by 100, you want to multiply by 100, so you move the decimal 2 places to the right. So let's take a look at these first 2 examples. 35%, remember, is 35 out of 100. So you do 35 divided by 100. And 35 divided by 100, you move the decimal 2 places to the left and get rid of the percent sign. So 35 hundredths. And then for 115%, since it's more than 100%, our final answer is going to be more than 1 whole. (115%), you move the decimal 2 places to the left when you divide by 100. So 1.15, and get rid of the percent sign. You can try these next 3 on your own real quick. 27%. Remember, if there isn't a decimal point in the number, it's at the end. And if we want to change it to a decimal, we divide by 100. So 0 and 27 hundredths. 145% is going to be more than 1 whole. It's going to be 1 and 45 hundredths. And then 0.2 or 0.2%. This is going to get to be a really itty bitty number. Move it 2 places to the left and you get 2 thousandths. Next, we're going to go from decimals to percents. So instead of dividing by 100, we're going to multiply by 100, which means we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. When we move the decimal 2 places to the right, we end up with 20%. This one, 1.66 or 1 and 66 hundredths, that's more than 1, so it's going to be more than 100% when you move the decimal 2 places to the right. You get 166%. You can try these next 3 on your own real quick. Again, to change this to a percent, you multiply by 100 and add the percent sign. So 83%. 176 and 0.4%. And 0.5%. The next thing we're going to do is write fractions as percents. There's 2 different ways you could choose to do this. The first way is to use a proportion. Since percent means out of 100, you would take 3/8 and say 3/8 is equal to x over 100. And whatever you get for x when you solve this proportion, that would be the percent. So in this example, when you do like we did in chapter 4, you'd have 8x equaling 300, and then you end up with 37.5 or 37.5%. The second way to do it would be to first change it to a decimal. A fraction bar is like a division sign, so you do 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8 is this right here, and then you'd have to change it to a percent by multiplying by 100 or moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So 37.5%. 3/8 is equal to 37 and 0.5%. All right, let's go ahead and try this next one. Write 2/3 as a percent. You could just do the division method, changing it to a decimal. 2 divided by 3. 2 divided by 3, some of you may know already, is zero point 0.6 repeating, or you could grab a calculator. 2 divided by 3 is going to say 0.66666, and at the very end it's going to have a 7 on your calculator, and that's only because your calculator rounded up at that very last place value on the display. But now we want to change this decimal to a percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the right, because we're multiplying by 100. And since this is 6 repeating, it's going to be 66.6 repeating percent. The other way you could have done the same problem would be the proportion of 2/3 equals x over 100. And then do like we did in chapter 4, set the cross products equal to each other. 3x equals 200, and then when you divide by 3, 200 divided by 3 is 66.6 repeating. And then don't forget the percent sign. When it asks for a percent, it's very important that you put the percent sign on your answer, because it means something very different than if you write the number without the percent sign. All right, in these last 3 examples, you can choose whichever way you want to do it. Sometimes one way might be easier than another. If you have a calculator, changing them to decimals and moving the decimal point over is pretty easy. However, in this first example, 7/25, I might choose to write that as a proportion, or just think of it as an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Because this bottom number was multiplied by 4, the top one would also have to be multiplied by 4. So if we multiply the numerator by 4, we get 28. So 7/25 is the same thing as 28/100. So the answer is 28%. Now this next one isn't as easy to do mentally that way, so I would probably just go ahead and do division. 3 divided by 16. 3 divided by 16 equals this. And then you want to change it to a percent by multiplying by 100 or moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So 18.75%. Now the last example here, 1/9, you may remember from earlier this year, 1/9 is 0.1 repeating. Or if you did 1 divided by 9 on your calculator, you would see it's 0.1 repeating. Now change it to a percent by multiplying by 100, and you'll get 11.1 repeating percent. The last thing we're going to do is compare numbers. Just like earlier this year, you want to compare the numbers when they're in the same form. So it says in a recent survey, 6/10 of the people said that they will use their tax refund to pay bills, and 7% said they will just spend it. Do more people pay bills or spend their refund? Well, you either need to change these both to decimals or both to percents. I went ahead and changed the 6/10 to a percent by moving the decimal 2 places to the right, and you get 60%, which is way bigger than 7%. So more people plan to pay bills with their tax refund. Next up, in a survey, 14% of students said they would travel over spring break, and 3 out of 25 said they would watch videos. Is a bigger part of students traveling or watching videos? Well, this 3/25 can be written as, or 3 out of 25 can be written as a fraction. And that fraction, 3/25, is equal to 12/100, which is 12%. Or you could do 3 divided by 25, which is 0.12 or 12/100, and then move the decimal over to get 12%. And 12% is a little bit less than 14%, so more of them said they would be watching, more of them would be traveling than watching videos. Last, we're going to put them in order from least to greatest. in this example here, we're going to go ahead and change them all to percents. Since these have a denominator of 20 and 100, they're very easy to change to a percent. This one already is. 3/100 is 3%. 7/20 is the same thing as 35/100 because we multiplied both the numerator and denominator by 5. 35/100 is 35%. And then this one we moved 2 places to the right to get 33%. So the smallest is going to be this one. And when we write them, we want to make sure we write them in the way that they were given in the problem. So from least to greatest, it's 3/100, 30%, 33/100, and 7/20. This last example is another easy one to change to percents, but if you prefer, you could also do decimals. 22% obviously is 22%. 1/10 is the same as 10 out of 100, or 10%. 3/25 is the same thing as 12 out of 100, which is 12%. And 25/100 is 25%. So in order from least to greatest, it's going to be this one, then this one, then this one, and then that one. Remember, you want to write it using the numbers that are given to you in the problem.